Hi folks, sorry my desk is a bit of a bomb site at the moment. This is all for getting the final edit ready for An Englishman Abroad, which is sounding great and marvellous. That'll be out in May, but whilst we are also preparing for Vivaldi times 2 squared, and we've got a couple of double fiddle concertos, double cello concerto, double flute concerto, the last double oboe concerto, and a couple of concertos for groups of instruments. The last one that's going on the disc is Il Proteus or Il Mondo al Rovescio, which is Proteus or The World Turned Upside Down. Now, if you see this in if you see this title written down in a book or in a concert program or whatever, you could be forgiven for thinking that Vivaldi's idea is sort of one and the same. It's Proteus or The World Turns Upside Down. But what comes across very clearly from the manuscripts is that it is he always separates the idea of Proteus from The World Turned Upside Down. I'm sure I'll be doing a bit of research over why that might be over the next few weeks. One thing about Proteus, who was a river god, was he was one of these sort of mythological shape-shifting deities, and only if you grasped him really hard would he revert to his original shape. And it's quite interesting that it's quite funny that Vivaldi, sorry, all my what's that? All my scores are not in order at the moment. They're just, there we go. There is the viola part. So you can see that this is Vivaldi's depiction of Proteus. If you grasp him really hard, he just stays the same. So hence you have lots and lots of like very long drones. I think this is probably going to be a candidate for viola camp. Manuscript's interesting because it's one of the concertos that is housed in the Henry Watson Library in Manchester, along with that famous manuscript version of the Four Seasons. It was probably it is largely autograph in Vivaldi's hand, and was probably intended as a sort of presentation manuscript for Cardinal Ottoboni in Rome. He was Venetian cardinal who was based in Rome, and it is actually an arrangement of an earlier Il Proteo concerto which is just simply for violin and cello. This one, however, you've got the violin and cello lines, but to the violin line he adds a flute and an oboe who play in unison, and to the cello line he adds a flute and an oboe and a solo harpsichord. And everybody plays in unison, and I know people have often said, oh, well, that can't be right, surely, I mean, there must be something wrong. Well, actually, you know, this is one of those wonderful things that I just think, how can people accuse him of writing the same concerto 500 times? Because, I mean, the kind of, the texture that you hear coming from it is just, it's really quite surreal. It sounds a bit like a sort of Stravinsky pastiche written for a visual adaptation of a Henry Fielding novel, I don't know, Tom Jones or something like, made in the 60s. I mean, it's really, really, really weird. The violin part is quite interesting because Vivaldi writes here above, he basically says all the solos of this concerto must be played in the higher octave. So all this is, you shove that up the octave, and it's you know, it sits pretty high for the whole concerto, which is quite virtuosic. There is one recording that I've heard where the violinist doesn't shove it up the octave, but I don't even know who that was. You know, I know, but yeah, poor show. Anyway. There you go, Proteus, All the World Turned Upside Down. We'll be doing it in a couple of concerts, and it'll be out eventually on Signum Classics.